Some not so breaking news. One of the guys that firebombed my house back in 2022 has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. Now, I'm grateful to the judge, the arson squad and the financial crimes unit for all their hard work in securing this little bit of justice. That was a Herculean slog for the investigators to get it to that point at all, but this is hardly a definite end to this saga, and there are a few things that really need to be said in wake of this conviction. The person convicted of the firebombing is a man by the name of Tufi Jr. Tuisi Alua. I don't know if I'm saying that name correctly, and frankly, I don't care. I've never met Tufi Jr. I've never mentioned him in videos before. In fact, before he was charged, I'd never even heard of his name, nor do I hope to hear it ever again. It does, however, open a big question, a question which was not satisfactorily answered in court, and perhaps even more shamefully, not examined by most of the media. Why would a man with no connection to me whatsoever go to the effort of stealing a Mercedes, cloning number plates, surveilling my house, and then setting that house on fire? I think I know the answer. I'd wager some prominent defamation lawyers, property developers, and politicians also know the answer. There were some unsurprisingly cowardly and oblique hints of an answer in the ABC article about the conviction, an article which refers to me as an internet personality. Mr. Shanks, who uses the moniker Friendly Geordies online, had mentioned the Alameddine crime network in a video 2 months before his home was set alight. Just mention the Alameddines. A lot of people mention the Alameddines, Anton. The Alameddine crime network might be one of the most prolific gangs in this nation's history. They're nightly news. Some people bank their entire journalistic careers on talking about the Alameddines. They don't get their houses burnt down. How characteristically low from the ABC, especially when even the judge labelled the firebombing as, quote, a professional attack on a journalist. Anton here acts as if it was a coincidence after reading out a BuzzFeed article on a stream. This is not at all to excuse Tufi Jr. He tried to kill someone. He burnt down a house with no regard for not only the other potential occupants, but neighbours, which were the elderly, and for all he knew, could have been children. Even worse, because his motives are murky and seemingly transactional, he seems to have just been waved away with he was just the hired muscle. He tried to kill people. He burnt down a house. Things are a little bit scary in New South Wales if you ask me. At this point, you can order a firebombing, not only not get caught, but the muscle who does get caught gets about the same time as it takes to do a bachelor's degree. Pretty good risk to reward ratio, if you ask me. Over the past few years, I've faced multiple different criminal investigations and charges over what apparently in New South Wales is a far more serious crime, making YouTube videos. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that there were far more investigative and legal resources thrown at botched attempts to punish me than there were at punishing the firebombers. But the silver lining is that in the court of public opinion, thanks to the brazen violence of the firebombing, an act which to the broader public at least is more depraved than clicking upload, certain politicians, lawyers, police units and judges have been, what's the opposite of vindicated? I'll end this update with some questions for everyone to ponder. How can a man be charged and sentenced to 5 years in prison for a firebombing and the courts get to know nothing about his motives? How come when I drive through Sydney I see more cranes than ever bearing the title of the video that I was forced to take down due to the death threats? Why are certain politicians like Rose Jackson, who originally condemned the firebombing, albeit in the most performative Twitter-approved template that not only was mostly about her and how awesome she thinks she is, she also just had to add, right after I was nearly killed, that I'm, quote, way off and gross. I'll tell you what I think is way off, Rose. Hanging out with and propping up a development company which again shares the name of the video I was forced to remove due to death threats, and doing so knowingly. You know. That's what I think is gross, you self-aggrandizing transactional party machine cog. Why do the Alameddines, an organised crime gang, give so much access to certain ABC journalists? Why is the ABC so ardent in defending these certain journalists? And why isn't anyone able to get enough evidence to bring whoever ordered the firebombing into a courtroom? I'll tell you, there's some very strange things happening in New South Wales.